Hello there, Gamerinos and Gamerinas. Welcome to UnicornStorm. This is Rady, and today I'm going to take a quick look at the Steam Deck I received recently. And I know that there are bigger and more knowledgeable tech channels that talked about the Steam Deck. I just wanted to give you my honest first impressions on it. When we open up the box, we are greeted by this nice little instructional sheet that shows us the more important buttons on the deck, it seems. There's not too much information on it, but I guess it's good to know. Then there's the power cord that is taped shut, so I need to grab my scissors to open it up, because in a closed box you need another box to be covered in scotch tape so that nothing can fall out. I don't know. The length of the cord is okay. It's not long enough that you can just plug it in on the opposite wall, but it is fairly long, so I was able to plug the Steam Deck in and still play from the couch. But one thing that bothers me, and it is a bit of a nitpick, but why is there still a giant box at the end of the cord? Why isn't this box in the middle of the cord, or why isn't there just another attachment? I mean, to be honest, it's not the biggest problem I ever had, but it just sucks that I have to play Tetris on my power strips every time I get a new device, because half of them have this huge ass box at the end. I mean, a lot of our devices today are powered with an USB cable. So just connect the device to the box with an USB cable and the box to the electrical outlet with another USB cable. Or just have a cable with the box in the middle. It's not too hard. But as I said, also not too bad. Inside another sheet of warnings and instructions, there is this handy bag that lets us take the deck with us wherever we go more easily, and also keeps it safe from dirt or dust. And it looks quite nice. And I can't open it because it is secured with this little plastic thingy, because I need the carrying bag inside the box to be welded shut so no one can steal the deck, because that will stop them. Maybe it has to do with warranty. So now that I opened the case, Valve isn't liable anymore for any damages on the Steam Deck or something like that. And then there's the deck itself. It is quite large, but not too heavy, at least as long as you hold it in both hands. It has a slick design, rounded edges. Oh, hello there. And it lies in your hand, well, alright. It has all the buttons you can imagine, dual thumbsticks, digipad and face buttons, 2 trackpads, buttons for volume and of course the power button, 2 pairs of shoulder buttons, one on the left, one on the right, and even more back buttons on the, well, back of the deck that are very well placed to reach with your fingers. I already mentioned that the console is quite large. It's a good amount larger than the Nintendo Switch, and well, a lot larger than the Switch Lite model. I just placed them next to each other for comparison. But when we look at the actual screen size, while the Steam Deck is still a lot larger than the Switch Lite, the screen size isn't that much bigger than that of the original Switch model. A little bit, but not really enough that it makes any difference. After we booted up the system and it has downloaded the required updates, we need to log into our Steam account. After that, we are greeted with some helpful tutorials that explain to us the basic functionality of the deck. Mostly about the home button, or Steam button as it is called here, and the options button. And then we are thrown to the home screen, where we can see our recent activity and recent updates and things like that. And well, now we're in the main menu. By pressing the Steam button, we get access to the Steam store, or the library, or other options. But let's take a quick look at the settings first. There's a lot here of what you'd expect. There are network options and security options. You can change your keyboard layout to your preferred region. You can control the intensity of the haptic feedback of the deck itself or the trackpads. There are even some neat little options for the night or dark mode. But there are no global preferences for your preferred controls, because the Steam Deck has classic gamepad controls, but also touch controls, motion controls and the like. And every game chooses its own preferred system, so you have to alter it for every single game. An option to just put in your preferred control method would have been better in my opinion. Also, while navigating through the menus and while playing for a bit, I noticed that I'm not quite as happy as I could be with the button layout on the Steam Deck. The analog sticks and the trackpads are fine, although the sticks are a bit hard to reach. Not impossible and not too hard, but noticeable. But the digipad and the face buttons are just too close to the sticks for my liking. I would have preferred them to be a bit offset from the sticks, like we know it from most of the modern gamepads. The GameCube controller was spot on in that regard, and the Xbox controller was a nice variant on that. So yeah, I would have preferred that layout, but maybe I get acclimated to it. Another thing was that I accidentally pushed the back buttons, the L and R 3 and 4 buttons. Whenever I moved my hands around or tried to hold the deck in only one hand, I accidentally pressed the L4 or R4 button. And depending on what function you assign to that button, or is automatically assigned by the game, this might get frustrating. But I haven't had any issues so far. Okay. So, before we take a look at some games, I want to quickly look at the desktop mode that you can switch to if you don't want to use the Steam interface and if you want to install games or apps on the Steam Deck without the use of Steam itself. This is recommended for more tech-savvy people who have a knack for getting things to work, and it's not the most intuitive system to use, though the core functions don't divert too much from any PC. It's just a bit weird to figure out how to control this thing. But through the desktop mode, you are actually able to install games, even Steam games, that are not available through the, let's call it, Steam mode. At least they weren't when I first booted up the system. When I later returned to it, I guess it had an update in between, I was able to not only display the not supported games, but also install them. But yeah, not all Steam games are supported by the Steam Deck, and they might not work entirely or have some major problems like completely missing sound. I guess you can get it to work if you're knowledgeable enough or if you put in some work or research. And I will do just that, but I haven't for this video so far. But that's a thing to keep in mind. Of my nearly 2,000 games on Steam, only about 360 are supported by the Steam Deck. So just because you bought yourself this newfangled portable PC doesn't mean you can actually play all your favorite Steam games. Just keep that in mind. And now we take a look at how the games work on this Steam machine. You might not get the best experience out of this video where I captured the handheld gameplay with my camera, so you just have to trust me when I tell you that the screen itself is clear and so is the sound. The image is sharp, it's not too dark or too bright, and if it were, you could change it in the options menu. The colors are as vibrant as the game makers wanted them to be, so I really have no issues when it comes to the Steam Deck's visual or auditory functionality. I already mentioned my issues with the button placement, and that comes into play more or less dependent on the game. Also, while playing, I noticed that the Steam Deck gets pretty hot. Not burning your skin at the slightest touch hot, but hot enough to get uncomfortable, especially if you're like me and can't hold your fingers still and let them wander across the gamepad whenever you don't, well, use them. This depends, of course, on how much processing power any game demands from the deck. And of course, the battery life is also directly affected by it. Fully charged, the Steam Deck can hold out for about 4 to 5 hours, but playing more demanding games might cut that time in half. So if you're planning to take your Steam Deck with you on a trip, take 1 or 2 power bars with you, or plan for possible ways to charge up your Steam Deck at least once a day, more if you really play a lot. And before you think I've gone insane because I'm shaking my Steam Deck around while playing Dark Souls, while playing this game I noticed that sometimes my camera was controlled with motion controls, but I didn't know why or how, because it didn't work all the time, as you can see. That is, at one point I noticed that as long as my thumb rested on the right analog stick, I was able to control the camera by twisting and turning the Steam Deck around, which is fucking stupid. I mean, I guess it's helpful for first-person shooters and the like, but in a game like Dark Souls, I want the camera to stay in exactly that place I told it to. And I don't want to raise my thumb every time. I don't want to actively control the camera. I just want to have it rested on the thumbstick. And no, there is no way to just quickly deactivate the motion controls. I tried to deactivate all the haptic controls, which is something I actually don't want, because I like the haptic feedback and the rumble feature of the Steam Deck. So to deactivate this, you have to go to the game's store page or your library page and select the specific game options, and there you can select a control preset. And that's why I mentioned earlier that there is no global preference for this. You can't just select your preferred control method in the Steam Deck's options. You have to do this for every single game. And I mean, selecting a preferred control method for a single game isn't a bad thing. It just should be on top of a global preference, so that I can tell the Steam Deck, don't use motion controls for my games. But if there is a game I want to use motion controls in, I can just select it from the game menu. It's just something to keep in mind. It's not a deal breaker, just a bit more of a hassle than I'd want to. Aside from that little issue, the game ran fine. I had to get used to the button layout, and there were some small hiccups here and there, but aside from that, the game worked as expected. Though it has to be said that the Steam Deck doesn't run the game on too high of a resolution. I believe the maximum is 720p, and even then it doesn't select the highest graphical options. Not that it matters too much on a handheld screen. Though it does mean that the games don't look too good if you plug in the Steam Deck into the TV. So yeah, the Steam Deck has of course an option to play in TV mode, which is a welcomed addition, and I guess it has its uses, though I think most people who bought a Steam Deck are already PC gamers, so they do have a decent enough computer to play their favorite games and only own a Steam Deck to have their games on the go. But of course the Steam Deck is also a pretty good option for non-PC gamers to get to play some PC games or get to enjoy all those Steam sales they had to miss out and even play their games on the go. Or well, at home on the TV. And as I've said, it is a nice addition, but when you plug in the Steam Deck into the TV, it doesn't hold up with current gen consoles. The handheld mode, of course, but for playing games on the big screen, I'd say there are better alternatives. And since I'm already talking about the power of the Steam Deck, well, it is nice to play things like Dark Souls 3 on the go. There are a lot of games missing that should work fine on the Steam Deck, at least controls wise and such. And it might be because of hardware limitations of the Steam Deck. I don't own Elden Ring on Steam, so I don't know if the game is available on the deck, but I do own the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remake, as well as Resident Evil 7 and 8 on Steam, but only the remake of 2 is available on the deck. So either the other games are too demanding for the deck, or they just need an update to work properly on the deck. I need to look further into that. And you have to keep in mind that you are not forced to use the Steam client with the Steam Deck. And even games that aren't fully supported by the deck can be installed. You might just need to fidget around with the options a bit, or maybe even a lot. But if you don't run your games through the Steam main system, but through the desktop version, you sadly can't play on TV, it seems. Because when I booted up the desktop, that was what was displayed on my TV. No matter if I remained on the desktop or started a game. Maybe there's a way around that, but well, that's what I experienced. I also played some Doom, and I don't ever want to play Doom on a console again. I just can't play these kinds of games with a controller. I need a mouse and keyboard for this, and it was a horrible experience to play it in handheld mode. Maybe I can train myself to use the motion controls, but why should I? The game plays perfectly fine on PC with mouse and keyboard. But if you're into console shooters, if you want to play a first-person shooter with a gamepad, you can do so on the Steam Deck and can play Doom 2016 and even Doom Eternal. And, well, many more. So yeah, what do I think about the Steam Deck? It's a fine machine and it's a good way to get your games on the go. Just keep in mind that from all the thousands of games on the Steam service, only a few hundred are supported by the deck, which doesn't mean you can't play the others, but you might need to be a bit more tech savvy to get them to run properly. You can start and play your games right out of the box. That is, if you already have a Steam account and some games registered on it. But if not, there are also not too many problems, because you can just boot up the store page and buy game after game after game for most of the time a pretty good price. Because with the Steam Deck, you profit from the generally lower PC pricing. And of course, the steep discounts you often get on Steam. So is it worth buying? Well, that depends. Are you want to play games on the go, and do you want to play more recent games or more demanding games on the go? then I guess so. Go for it. But if you only play at home and are not really interested in games only released on PC, then you might be better off with just a gaming console. Or, well, a mid-tier gaming PC that you can already get for the price of a Steam Deck. So long as you want to plug it into your TV, then you don't need an extra display for it. But yeah, there are other options. This gaming device is something for enthusiasts, for people who don't mind spending a bit more on gaming hardware and periphery, and I guess it's something for just tech enthusiasts who like the idea of more and more creative ways for playing games. But yeah, I'm quite happy with it, and I'm looking forward to enjoying some games on the go that the Switch couldn't offer me. And with that said, have an awesome day. That's it from Rady, and I hope to see you again on the next game.